Tofino is a really creative place, and I think there's lots of reasons for it. Just the dynamic atmosphere of the ocean and the incredible forest, the weather, the storms, the fog, the rain. It's a very powerful place. I think it inspires a lot of creativity.
The land for us as Indigenous people has been a place of learning in the mountains, in the forests, and on the oceans. If you're out there, you learn about the place. So I think that a lot of the artists are very attracted to this place because of that. And of course, it has attracted people from many different parts of the world.
My first trip to the West Coast, I was a biology student, and what blew me away was just the drama of that outer coast. Everything about the place just reeked of, this is a place where nature is in control. And there's this little voice in me at that stage that was thinking maybe art would be a nice thing to do.
This landscape is so powerful in a way that I haven't experienced before, I don't think. Whether we write directly about the landscape, about the nature around us or not, I think it informs everything that we write when we live out here.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. When you go out into the forest, if you ask a question, the forest will answer it. And generally that's how I decide what the next piece is. So if I see Raven comes and gives me an answer, then Raven's the next piece I do.
The sound, the smell, every part of it just really stimulates the senses. And when you come back inside, that energy, it needs to go somewhere. So for me, it goes onto my painting.
Pretty much the ocean's influenced everything to do with my life. Just my lifestyle. Obviously, I choose this as my lifestyle. My work, everything. It's kind of the essence of everything that I do.
It's just this beautiful forest or this beautiful ocean. And we do a whole bunch of things in both of them, like surfing in the ocean and climbing and walking in the forest. And it's kind of just like you want to remember it, so you paint it.
I remember coming out to the beach, seeing the ocean for the first time in my life. It was so beautiful, and not caring that it was, cold and rainy in the middle of my summer. So coming to a place that's so raw was really inspiring. That's why I had to move here, because I just wanted to be around that all the time.
The environment here, what it does for me artistically is it's a reset. Being able to go to the beach in 5 minutes, and it's always beautiful. If it's raining, it's beautiful. If it's sunny, it's beautiful. And so you come back really refreshed and ready to go back to work.
Our worldview is that there is the natural world and there's the supernatural world. And the supernatural world is a reflection of the natural world. And we understood the relationship between the beauty of the natural world we have here, but also its relationship with its supernatural power and energy. So it has always attracted that incredible artistic expression, and it will continue to attract people that are inspired and invigorated by that energy.
Well, one of the challenges, of this project in particular was the constraints that it came with, that it had to fit within a surfboard. But as it typically is, with art, the constraint actually turned out to be one of the positive factors of it. So once you kind of get your head around, I've got to fit within this mold somehow or other, then the ideas, took shape from there.
All the boards are going to have, different imagery on them. That's going to just bring different perspectives of how, myself and other artists view the world and view their environment around them. And it kind of gives the ocean and the environment a bit of a voice.
The surfboard that I did carve was actually a slab from the bottom of one of these canoes. Did paint this design of it's a sun and a serpent that goes on it. They are basically teachings of natural laws and how, nature, it can give, but it can also take. So it's important to understand those things.
So this board had a unique challenge among the other boards in that it had to have a chalkboard background so that poems would be able to be written on there and erased. If you can take one poem and frame it really beautifully so that it has a lot of space, I think it gives a person an opportunity to connect with those words in a very meaningful way.
So on my board, I drew a black and white image of, it's actually of a local surfer, Michael Darling. The surfer is important to what I draw, but it's the background that I'm really excited about. So drawing the trees and the mountains, the water, that's exciting to me because where I grew up, it didn't look like this. I've never seen anything like this before.
Yeah, I had fun, making octopuses flow in the water when you're painting them is quite a neat thing because the suckers pick up a lot of light. And if I can get the lighting accurate, then it looks real, and I want it to look real because I'm just blown away by how beautiful it is out there, and I don't need to make it abstract or add weird colors. It's just perfect the way it is.
For my board, we chose an image of Malcolm Daly walking to the surf early in the morning through the forest. The reason we chose that is because Malcolm's kind of surrounded by the elements, and it's kind of a darker image, so it really reminds me of Tofino in the winter.
Well, I try to take the old Tlingit legends that I was orally taught over the years. I try to incorporate all those stories into everything I do. The shark itself is in an attack pose. They have a certain body position that they go into right before they attack. So I wanted that aggression on the board because it's surfing.
So the Arts Council got a hold of me and asked if we wanted to have a board to collaborate with the kids and present it for the boardwalk, and we just jumped at the opportunity. And I had 16 kids at the time, so we divided it between the two groups, and they came together and then collaborated on each piece. And we used acrylics and glass and resin, and they just went for it.
My main kind of character on my board right now is a character named Pukmis, and Pukmis is the wild man of the ocean, and his story is that he is a drowned whaler, and it's our understanding and belief that if you go out and something happens, it means that you weren't properly prepared. So it's about the teachings of having respect for the ocean and doing the proper preparations for whatever task it is that you are hoping to achieve. Well, the cool thing is that I inherited a used board from Pete DeVries. It was really neat for me to get this board and realize that all over are all these indentations from his surfing experiences. It's not a blank canvas at all. It's been used and loved and taken to all sorts of interesting places.
There's a natural aesthetic that I think is a beautiful link between surfing and making art. Is so graceful, so fluid. It's like self-expression.
Well, surfing is an art. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's like a dance. You need the weather conditions to be right, you need the ocean conditions to be right, and all you need is a board.
How you feel the wave, how you move around on it, it's up to you. It's the same thing with making art. We all have a codified rules, but when the artist themselves puts themselves into it, it adds that extra layer.
You can do almost anything you want on a wave, and what you choose to do is a reflection of your art and who you are. It's just the same as the type of media that other artists would choose.
I think surfing and photography are really similar in the fact that it's hard to find a gratification point because the progression never ends and you just kind of keep working off of what you've already done.
Anything someone does that they're passionate about, there is a creativity to it. When I watch surfers, they all have this unique style, which you don't get unless you're doing something creative.
It's just the neatest thing that people are able to enjoy the thrill that there's this energy that's there and it's free and visually it's very beautiful. I mean, the light coming through a wave with that opalescent green that happens.
Jan McDougall, who is a member of our writers group, asks, what do surfers and poets have in common? And this is what she concluded. In short, they pay close attention to timing and rhythms. are attentive observers and often get lost in the zone. Whereas surfers rely on the swell to ride their craft, poets rely on inspiration to write their craft.
Projects like this allows all the artists to come together. We get a more sense of our community, who's working with who's doing what, and they trigger new art. That's the thing of it. It's that Renaissance aspect where everyone comes together, sees everybody else's, and we all affect each other. And then you end up with culture.
You don't always know what people are up to in this town. You don't actually always see the talent. So something like this, it's great for not just tourists, but the locals who live here to see what people are doing around town. There's a lot of talent in this town.
It's pretty alarming when you actually think of how many painters and photographers and artists are just hanging out that you don't get to see on an everyday basis. So when you get to see these boards, it gives kind of like an overall culture walk that you can go through town and see what's going on. So it brings awareness to how many creative and how many great artists we have in Tofino.
I think until you start creating art, you feel how it feels to be inspired by something. You suddenly realize the kind of personal growth that can go with that, and the whole regions of your mind that are untapped, kind of waiting to be used. I think it's very, very fulfilling that way.
It's quite cool because just as some little community can be such bigger than you think, even by one little board with paint on it from kids makes a whole town happy.
It's so important to support healthy expression in whatever way it comes out, and art and music and creativity is a way for people to connect with each other and hear each other and understand each other. Visual art is just another medium and another language.
We tend to sideline art, I think, as not being part of our normal lives, but it's everywhere in our normal lives. There have been poems that have changed my life. Just that flash of insight that has fundamentally shifted the way I look at things.
The artists that I admire are taking some part of the world, and they're usually not the most obvious things that people see, and they bring attention to that, piece of, and for me it's usually the natural world, and I think it's just really important it drives. It's what I guess what I'm doing. I'm celebrating the beauty of the world, and if I can bring that to other people, that's fantastic, because I would like to make sure that as little of it gets damaged as possible in my lifetime.
Art's been, I think, one of the most important aspects of humanity the world over. I didn't really understand it when I was younger. So why do they want to spend so much money on art for? But, and I learned about it later. I said, wow, it is really important. It's really important for, all of our different cultures, the different cultures that come from all different places around the world. You travel around the world, you see art everywhere. And, I think that, rather than perhaps growling at each other about where we're from and so on, that we could celebrate those things.
I think the value to the community in this kind of project is it's a reflection back to them about what certain members of their community feel about where they live. And when you get that reflection back to you, it makes you pause and consider yourself, where you live, what you value about this place, what you see here. And I think that's generally what art does for us at a cultural level. It makes us see things that we might not see.